I've been using Premiere. I've been using a number of different ones, but Premiere, I have seen the evolution of Final Cut and Avid and Edius and Premiere, and Premiere is where it's at, man. Right now,
Yeah.
I don't think any of them have the motivation or the innovation or creativity, maybe even the finances to compete on the market it's at today.
The entire suite is like,
It works so well together.
Yes.
yeah, they work well
And-
together. They all work like well. They all work well. Everything is at least above average. And like, if they can just tinker the things that need to catch up, like I can see it being like just everywhere.
Dude, I think it's a great investment to learn anything Adobe right now, because I think some of the biggest paying jobs probably in the creative marketing world in the next 10, 20 years, it's going to probably be centered around Adobe softwares.
Welcome back to the Wacky Wonderful Wiseworks podcast. We're coming in at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Monday morning. Welcome.
The ice cream truck is the most perverse thing on this planet. Maybe not on this planet.
Yeah.
Wow. But it's definitely top 20.
Wyatt was like, where the heck did you get pizza? And I'm like, I don't know, it's been in the fridge for a while.
Luke falls in the pit and Darth Vader uses the force to hit the switch and goes, oh, too easy. He's got so much sass. I'm like, all right.
There's a lot of good
stank
moments.
on that.
Dude, I can't take it. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Got a great episode for you today, and I'm really excited about this conversation. A couple of guys from the LOWBAT podcast, actually local here to Virginia Beach. We got Casey and Fabian.
Hey, how you doing?
What's
going on?
Guys? I want to understand a little bit about your background, because I know you started this LOWBAT, I guess, in terms for people that don't know you, low battery kind of production company.
Yeah, more or less.
Give us a little bit of a background on the starting of that production company, because I know you guys got all kinds of videos on your website, and you're about 30 episodes deep into podcast. So give me a little background to help me understand you guys a little better.
Yeah, so it was all started a couple years ago by our fearless leader, Ethan.
Okay.
He found this passion for photography and mainly videography. Started exploring that, wanting to do all sorts of stuff with video, and then had a lot of friends that were interested as well. Started kind of building something out of it. And for a while, it was just mostly like a video production company making music videos and things of that nature. And then Ethan and I became closer over the years, and we both realized we both wanted to do a podcast. And I had been talking to Fabian for the past several years also about like, we should do a podcast, but we didn't necessarily know why or like what, you know what I mean? It was just like, we know a lot of people and we could talk to people, but like why? And then it worked perfectly because Ethan and everybody with LOWBAT being this video production company, having all the resources to make like a high production podcast. And then Fabian and I wanting to be the hosts of it, it kind of just worked out perfectly. And there's a lot more stuff that we're looking to work on, and we're looking to expand.
Yeah.
But more or less, it was definitely started by Ethan.
Okay, that's awesome. So Ethan, he's the kind of the founder of LOWBAT Productions. What's the correct terminology? Is it production or LOWBAT? Just LOWBAT? Is that how you guys refer to it as?
Yeah, we just refer to it as LOWBAT.
Is he kind of the founder and starter of LOWBAT essentially?
Yeah, he's definitely the initial force behind everything, and he is behind the scenes of everything that we do. He's the producer of the podcast portion too. He's on the soundboard.
Gotcha.
He's taking care of all that. Jumps in every once in a while as well. So
sick.
Anything that LOWBAT has done, he's been a really big part of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What year were you guys founded in?
That is a good question.
I
don't know where it technically lands.
I'm pretty sure in like 2018 or so is when he started dabbling with it. I was at his house, his old house, when they shot their first short.
Okay.
Never got released. It was more or less just
Bummer.
a test run. but
it still exists.
I mean, it exists. Maybe it'll get revisited
one of these days.
Yeah.
It'll come out.
But yeah, it basically started with Ethan saying, "Hey, I got this camera equipment," and then, our friend group was like, "Cool, let's do some videos." And that started, I believe, in 2018.
That's awesome. So you guys, it's the majority of you guys at LOWBAT. Are you guys all friends?
Yep. Yeah, it's just a group of friends and significant others, and just like everybody all has their place. Like Ethan's girlfriend Amanda is the art director, so she has this really, really good eye for color and for like forming a whole, basically like a vibe in a room or whatever it is.
And prop design.
And it's so useful because so many of us aren't good at that at all, and she just is phenomenal at it. And everybody just has their place more or less, and you get called upon whenever we're working on a production big enough. Like the first one that I've been a part of that everybody was a part of, we just did a music video that came out recently for this artist Noah Ford.
I watched the podcast with him.
And yeah, it was such a good podcast, and the video was so exciting to make because it required every single one of us,
dude,
to have a part in it.
That open shot of just the come down from the sky and then that push in and he's in the field, sick opening. That was awesome.
I appreciate
that. Was great.
Yeah, it took forever to like it was a lot of planning. I think the day that we figured out we wanted to use that location for that shot was like 6 months, maybe more, like 6 months ago or something like that. It's been in planning for a long time.
Awesome. Now Ethan, does he have like some kind of charismatic personality to where he's able to sell a vision really well or something? Because he seems to have gotten quite a few of you guys around him and given you guys opportunities to create your own stuff and be creative. He must be kind of a natural born leader. Is that right?
I would say, I mean, I'll speak from my perspective, and I'm curious about your take on it. Ethan is such a. Am I allowed to curse on here? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. You do you.
Okay.
Man.
He is he doesn't hold back any shit.
Yeah.
He's kind of just like and not in a way of like being mean, but in a way of just being like, this is exactly what it is, how it is. Yeah. And he's like, if I want to do something, I'm going to figure it out. And I saw that like initiative in him, that he was like a guy who knew nothing about doing this and just learned. He figured it out. And every step of the way, every time something else comes up, he's able to just just be like, I'm going to go lock myself in my room and just like, I'll figure it out. And so that was my, I guess, attachment to it. I was like, okay, I definitely respect his work ethic and I respect his vision. And yeah, it just, that was mainly it for me. What was your take on it?
I mean, I would say it's one of those things where, Ethan, he's kind of like, he brings a lot of ideas to the table, no matter what it is. I know before we started doing any of this video production or anything like that, we had oftentimes he had held game nights at his house, and it was a way to bring people together. And it was just one of those things where it's the meetup spot over there for game night. All of our friends were invited if we really wanted to come. And the cool thing about our friend group is everyone's talented. First of all, we all do things and are able to pick up things really quickly. So it was really easy for people to contribute in some way, shape, or form. And it allowed, everything to kind of blossom from there. So we kind of use Ethan as the driving force for really anything. I mean, he's even the team captain of our local soccer team at the field house.
I was going to say, I guess I hadn't even realized that he really is the dude to just be like, hey, all these different people come together and I'll figure it out. Like the soccer team, the game nights, LOWBAT. I hadn't put all that together, but yeah, that's very true.
Man, he sounds like a cool dude. I'd like to meet him sometime. He's probably got demons in his head running around. He can't help himself.
Yeah.
He's always a busy dude, but he loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know he's been on only one, he's only been a guest one time on the podcast. I think that was for the twice now.
He was on with Andrew Hales, and then he was on with one other one that I can't recall at the moment. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought he was. He's very much a behind the scenes guy. He likes to be the one running the camera and running stuff. He's not somebody who wants to be on camera.
Gotcha. So now, okay, so we talked about Ethan a good bit, got an idea of where you guys kind of started. I want to know about the podcast, because that's something you guys, I'm guessing you two are kind of heading up, correct? For LOWBAT. Okay, so tell me the story of the evolution of starting a podcast, because a podcast in today's world, there's so many, but it's kind of like, you got to kind of pick what's your goal, what's your motivation behind it, and then how are you guys the ones that are overseeing that in the midst of the whole LOWBAT crew?
So with the podcast, that started the actual formation of doing a LOWBAT podcast started between a conversation with Ethan and I. We were at Red Robin, I believe.
I think that's what the story
we were
goes.
We were just at Red Robin, sitting there talking about just like stuff.
Yeah.
And we realized in conversation, it was like, yeah, you know, I've talked about doing a podcast. And he was like, I also really want to do a podcast. And I was like, why are we talking about it? Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, okay, well, like, what do we do? And I was like, I'll get Fabian, because I already know he'll say yes, because I know he wants to do it. Fabian and I have worked on stuff in the past with like a music studio and all sorts of stuff. And so it was like, I know he'll be good for it. And luckily Ethan had just gotten off of finishing like a music video and stuff. So we had a little bit of money. So I was like, okay, we went back to the house, and that day, I think we ordered 80% of what we needed.
Oh, wow.
We were just like, let's just do it. And then we started forming mainly like why in that conversation. And the gist of it was that we agreed that we really wanted a mostly guest focused, high production podcast, because Fabian and I are both musicians. We've been playing in bands locally for years, and there's not very many like places there's some like interview spots, I guess. There's some people that do interviews, but we really wanted a long form thing. It was like they can come and like you can really get to know them. So the gist of it was that we just wanted to be able to invite our friends that do cool creative stuff to come and really explain it, and then branch out and really explore like what makes Virginia Beach and the surrounding areas interesting. Anybody who has a cool story, does anything cool, they can come on and tell it and just talk about it.
Gotcha. Fabian, what did you think when a podcast idea was brought to you? Were you just waiting for it, or did you feel like this is something, I was born to do? Or is it like, or were you kind of caught off guard? What were your thoughts when you were like, I might be a podcast host soon?
I'm pretty sure the first time I heard about the podcast, they had already bought all the gear. And Casey texted me and said, "Hey, let's do a podcast.
Like, hey, be here on this day."
It's pretty close to that. But as Casey had stated before, like we talked about doing something like this before, just because when I'm with Casey and we're like, say we're driving to Richmond for a show, and we're in the car for 2 hours, we were able to talk the entire time about whatever, and like it's really easy. Our chemistry is pretty good together, so we would always talk about like, oh, we should start a podcast. They're getting kind of popular. This is like a couple of years ago and things like that. I'm pretty sure like the idea that was almost a thing was like,
oh man, are you gonna bring the food thing?
Yeah, pretty sure we were gonna like go to different burger places.
Yeah,
because we both love burgers and just talk about stuff.
We were like, we want to go sit at a burger place and try the burger, but also have a podcast. It's not about the burger. We'll talk about the burger. But that's not the point. And it was like, why? Like, what? I don't. It was just
an idea, just kind of something a little different. But and he said, yeah, we're gonna do a podcast. Came over, talked about it. We all discussed, and it's like the idea of having a podcast that highlights local talent is really good, because there wasn't really anything that was of high quality in the area, and we knew that with our collective talents and abilities, we would be able to achieve that pretty easily.
Gotcha. And you guys, are you lifetime locals of Virginia Beach?
Yes.
Gotcha. And so you guys are, if you're both musicians, I live in Oceanfront, and so I'm always seeing live music, right? Mm-hmm. Always. And are you guys connected with a lot of the bands that perform in Oceanfront, or are you guys a part of your own band, or what kind of music background do you guys have for this area?
So like with with this area, I mean, we've been in like rock and metal bands for years, like 10 years or so now or more. And we've both had the opportunity to work. I currently still do work at Guitar Center, and Casey used to work at Guitar Center as well. So we're able to kind of get into the community really easily and getting to know some musicians in the area. So we know people that both play club gigs and the stuff. We know people that play the oceanfront or a bunch of bars and clubs at the oceanfront. And it was cool because we had a plethora of people that we can be like, what's their story? I know that they're a musician. I know that they play shows this often, but I don't know how they got there.
Yeah.
So it was like a perfect idea to be like, well, let's talk to them about it, and we can broadcast it, and they can get it out to their fans. And, you know, it helps everyone out in the end that way.
Awesome. Now, you guys, am I correct when I say you guys are roughly 30 episodes deep into the podcast? Because it sounds like you guys might have had a podcast or something before you started LOWBAT Podcast. Is that right?
So neither of us have ever hosted a podcast. I guess, well, for me, that's not entirely true. I had a group of friends when I was in high school. We tried to do a podcast. I'm not even going to say what it's called because I think it still exists, but good luck finding it, anybody. This was our first attempt at a podcast, and episode 29 just came out today. So we are about to be at 30 episodes deep, which is exciting.
Very cool. So then you guys, outside of your experience, Fabian, did you have any podcast experience or before the LOWBAT?
No, not really.
Okay.
I actually started listening to podcasts like maybe 2 years ago, so I'm relatively new to the whole game.
Gotcha.
I mean, I have the value that I provide for us is I have audio experience. Casey's mentioned that we had a studio together. So I kind of took over like the audio portion of the podcast, making sure everything sounds good, make sure the equipment that is acquired is the best, the right equipment to get. That was pretty much it. I mean, I kind of felt like talking into a microphone isn't like I can do that all day. Not saying like I can talk all day. You know, I'm kind of an introverted guy, which made this kind of challenge at first. But having the confidence just to speak into a microphone is sometimes a challenge for some people.
Yeah, for sure. I know, like, man, it took me probably like, I don't know, 24 to 50 episodes before I even felt like, yeah, you just say things in front of a mic, and you try not to get a shaky voice, and you try to be yourself as much as possible.
I'm hoping to hit that point soon because I
seems
get
like you're there.
Super nervous every episode. I think I hide it fairly well. I can tell whenever it happens, but like every episode before like we start, the intro music starts and my heart just like starts rapidly beating, and I'm like, all right, let's see what happens. It always works out. It's always fine, but it's terrifying.
And we definitely we don't have any cuts in our episodes. It's everything's live, like as is recorded is what happened. And we kind of want to have the vibe of this is you. If you stutter a little bit, like that's just you. And you know, we're just recording that.
Yeah.
And it makes everything a lot simpler in the end. And people are way more comfortable as well when they're on the mic.
Yeah. And you guys, is that like as a policy, you don't do cuts?
It's basically it's not a policy, but it's an expectation.
Gotcha.
Everybody has the right to like veto a moment if they need to. It hasn't happened yet.
Well, we did have that one technical.
There's been one cut, and then there's been a technical issue that happened, but besides that, everything has basically just been completely like live edited. We have a switcher, an ATEM that we switch through for all the cuts and everything, and it all gets produced live more or less.
Awesome. What kind of ATEM you guys got?
It's the smaller version. I think it's either the mini or if there's a step above
the Mini
that,
Pro.
Yeah, it has 4 HDMI inputs, I believe.
And a record option. Heck yeah. I just got that thing, and I'm yet to figure it out.
I also don't know how to work it. That's why Ethan is
That's
here.
an Ethan thing, definitely. So, you know, you can hit him up if you have any questions. So be happy to help.
I'm struggling with getting it streaming correctly, and what kind of internet bandwidth you need to get it to work correctly.
We were able to use it we've only streamed once, but when we did it, we use OBS for everything.
Gotcha.
We just run all the signals into that, and I think depending on what we're doing, we're either running 2 or 3 computers that are running the different stuff. Either the screen behind us having like the logo and stuff up, and we can pull up
clips and whatnot,
whatever, or running the actual stream. So it all just that's all over there. That's those people. I don't know how to do it. Almost any of it.
Well, your job is to be on camera and on mic, you know? I want to get you guys' thoughts, because you guys have had many conversations at this point. You've talked to some cool people. And podcasts are like literally one of the biggest things in the world right now. What, from other guys who do a separate podcast with different intentions, what are your guys' thoughts about podcasts as a whole? Is your motivation more of like a local impact kind of thing, or do you think that maybe your podcast would maybe someday have the opportunity to reach hundreds of thousands or millions of people to motivate a certain value you guys hold? You know what I mean? What are your thoughts on that?
I think for me personally, I lean on the side of my like perfect picture, like the dream, I guess, would be we have the opportunity to interview some A-list celebrity, and then the next day we have the opportunity to talk to some local band that has 2 followers.
Yes.
And offer the same platform to everybody.
Yeah.
That way, like, it ups our value. We were at the beginning very much like we're going to be local exclusive. And then we had the opportunity to talk to Andrew Hales, and he's not from here, and he's a big name YouTuber and everything. We were like, okay, how do we, like, what do we do about this? And then we were like, that's actually a really good thing, because that one's going to probably get more views because he has followers. And if we can offer that service to local people, that just all that does is sweeten the deal, like make our what we have to offer better.
Yeah.
Is that the same way you feel about it?
Yeah, definitely. We're here to tell a story, have our guests, tell the world who they are, and just a matter of like who we're able to get on, who we're able to reach is gonna, kind of help guide us where we need to go. If we start being able to talk to some people that have more followers, and people with more followers want to be on the show, I mean, who knows what could happen from there. But for now, the goal is to just allow people to get on to talk about themselves, no matter who it is.
Yeah, for sure. I know I have listening to podcasts is what got me into podcasting. That was back in January of 2019, I think. And it motivated me to get started. I'm curious, do you guys have... Are you fans of anybody that does podcasting, and who are they? Because I've heard a theory that maybe it can be helpful to model and remix after a couple people that inspire you. And so I'm curious, who inspires you guys?
So I'll start just because my story is a lot shorter and probably more lame. I just started listening to podcasts. I mostly listen to them for 2 things, and that's either musicians, like their interviews, or their podcasts that they host. A lot of musicians that were out of work and weren't able to tour during the pandemic, they were on podcasts. They started their own podcasts and things like that. So it was a way to keep interacting with their fans, and also to share some stories. So that's, one half of the podcast I listen to. The other half of the style of podcasts I listen to are mostly baseball related news podcasts, because I'm a big baseball fan, and there's tons of them available. So that's usually what I'm listening to. It's great when I drive a lot. So
what does
great
baseball podcast cover? I've never listened to it.
It's whether it be like just the news from around the league, or one of my favorites is called Effectively Wild, which is a stat-based podcast. So they talk about all the weird stats that only the nerdy people know, like myself.
So does it kind of feel like baseball cards in a podcast?
In a way, yeah. Just kind of the very like minute stuff that big fans can appreciate compared to the general public. But that's pretty much me. I enjoy those a whole lot, and listening to them made me feel pretty comfortable in the fact that I can probably do that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
For me, I've watched podcasts for a long time, specifically the Rooster Teeth podcast, and any of the podcasts that that have surrounded them with all the other shows. And I've always loved just like, I was like, how can these same 4 people generally sit down every week and just talk? And I'm always like in love with it. And so I would tune in every single week and always like listened or whatever. And then I also listened to some music-based ones. There's 2 specifically that I listened to, but this one is based on the guest. It's a podcast called The Downbeat, which the drummer of Straight from the Path is who hosts it. And he generally talks to other drummers or just musicians, producers, anybody in that realm. I think he's starting to branch out to other people too. But his style of podcast I love because it's super laid back. It's very much like 2 friends having a conversation. And because they're like a version of famous, it's really interesting, like hearing that the barrier's gone.
Yeah.
And it's not like an interview. It's just like they're just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And then a podcast called Lead Singer Syndrome, which is the vocalist of Silverstein.
Okay.
Basically doing the same thing. His is a little bit more structured, but
yeah.
I love those.
Okay. So if you guys both have a background in music, then getting into podcasts, it's audio first and foremost. So that's something you guys are comfortable with. But then there's the aspect of what kind of, I guess, LOWBAT does: video production, video podcasts, music videos, client work. Is this something you guys came into LOWBAT having experience with, or did you learn everything about video production when you entered LOWBAT?
I think we've both been on the other side our whole life. Being in bands, like you do a lot of photo shoots, you do videos. When you play live, there's videos of you playing, whether it's from a phone or professional one. Like, we've been on the other side of it a bunch, but never been on the actual production side of it too much. But both of us definitely, like, I know both of our brains work in the same way, where we see something and we're like, that's cool. How does that work? And then we just like start digging in and being like, so like we just went to a festival recently that his band played at, called Blue Ridge. And when I was there, I was like watching every single thing and being like, okay, so he's going to run over there. And okay, what's his cable management? And I was like, just trying to put it all together and understand how the production was working.
Yeah.
That's just like how our brains work. So it kind of just made sense once we started diving into the world with Ethan. It was like, this is our opportunity to really get the other side of it, to really learn.
Yeah. Yeah. Fabian, did you have prior experience outside of being in a band and getting maybe filmed, or the production of band? Did you like video production for clients or being behind the camera? Did you have any experience of that before you entered LOWBAT?
Not much. The most that I've ever done beforehand was like filming my own like drum covers for YouTube.
Okay.
So that was, but very, very simplistic, very bare bones, just enough to get content out.
Yeah.
That's definitely not my forte. I've learned so much about video production in the past year that, it's definitely more than I've known in my entire life. So being a part of this group has definitely broadened my horizons in a way of how all this stuff works.
Yeah. So you guys then...
I got
what now?
Go ahead. I was just gonna say I got the setup that we have now. Ethan wasn't even here, and I put it all together.
Heck yeah.
And I mean, he came in, he tinkered it, he made it better, but I got the gist down, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
I have an idea. I can figure it out.
Yeah. That's sick, guys. So you've both been, for music videos specifically, you've been behind the camera more recently, and you've also been in front of the camera. I'm curious, since you guys have so much experience with music videos, what might be the most difficult / annoying thing about making a music video?
The answer came to me quickly.
I mean, so there's a couple different ways to look at it, because you can look at it on the producer side, like the filmographer side, or you can do it on the band side.
I think similarly for both, proper preparation.
Okay, yeah, that's basically it.
It's such a simple thing to think about, but I'm not going to name anything, but we definitely have had experiences with people who are very involved, and you say, okay, to make that happen, we need X, Y, and Z, and they get X, Y, and Z. And then there's other times where it's like, to make that happen, we need these things. And then a month goes by and it's like, we haven't heard anything. Like, what's going on? It's like, oh, we can't get those things because of this reason.
Yeah.
And it starts to become a mess. It absolutely is like you're not just paying for, which some people, maybe you're paying, like if you're on the band side, you're paying for a service and you expect them to do everything. But for us, we are very much more in the line of like, we like it to be a collaboration. So it's like, okay, we rely on each other. We respect each other. Everybody's going to do their part and to make this really sick video happen. But the thing that makes it crumble or makes a video worse is not being ready when it comes to like actual shoot day
For both the musicians and the production crew.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Which is
like on the musician side, if you haven't like gotten what you need or you don't have the songs practiced enough, there's all sorts of that side. And then obviously on the production side, if you didn't get all the set pieces that you need or figure out the producer side of it, like the other people you need to hire or whatever, then it can definitely become a mess.
Yeah, which is why LOWBAT does like to make everything a collaboration, with everything being very open communication, making sure all things are squared away before you even get to the set. I've filmed a few music videos with a couple different bands as a musician. In my current band, actually, our latest music video, which should be releasing sometimes this fall, was done with LOWBAT. It's the first time I've done it with LOWBAT. Me and Ethan were able to work together, where I was more like a producer in a way. And then there was so much more preparation that I've never done before in getting it ready. We literally
there's a cat behind
That's
the TV.
cool. That's cool.
We literally had like every single step planned out weeks before we even shot, and that was the first time I've ever done that. And it just shows that proper preparation makes sure that shoot day is flawless. And I had never felt so, prepared and confident in all the shots as I ever had in that on that day for shoot. So definitely the most annoying part about music video or video production in general is everyone coming together and not being ready to start the day and things like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I didn't know you guys were musicians before we started this. And so I want to ask you, since you both have been in front of the camera during music videos, do you think about because obviously when you're on stage, I'm sure you're like, oh, I conduct myself in this manner while playing music. Is it the same thing for music videos, or is it a completely different thing? Because you're essentially performing and acting, maybe, if you're in front of the camera for music videos. So how is that different? And maybe how is it also different for even how you conduct yourself on camera and regarding the podcast?
I have very limited experience with it, but we both play drums, and I felt very different. Having I as a drummer, I never feel like the main focus, which I like personally. The people that need to see me can see me, but usually the vocalist is who everybody's paying attention to, which is great. Look at them, please.
Focus on my beats.
Yeah, exactly. But then with the one that the main one that I worked on, we were doing individual shots. So it was just me and the camera, and everybody was on the other side, not playing, and it felt super artificial. And so I got really in my head about the fact that I was like, I'm not really playing drums, am I? That's not what they're paying attention to. And then I got super in my head about it, and I wasn't a big fan of it personally.
I mean, it's weird because for me, when I sit on my drum kit, I let everything loose. That's my chance to just let go and have fun and not care about the world for a little bit. So I do that on stage, on camera, even when I'm filming for my covers, that's my chance to have fun and not worry about anything. But in reality, I'm a pretty quiet, laid back dude. So that persona that you see when I'm performing is quite different. And I'm able to kind of just on the podcast for the video portion, just kind of show that I'm chill.
Yeah.
And people get to see that part of me. A lot of people, especially because I'm not the most active person like out in public. When I do go to shows, other people's shows and things like that. I've had a lot of people in the music scene come up to me talking about the podcast in particular. Be like, man, like you're a pretty cool dude. Like you're smart and like you're pretty eloquent. And I'm like, thanks, man.
Well, okay. So who's your guys' favorite drummer?
The drummer that anytime I see that they're doing something or I see a video, I'll click on it, is the drummer Connor Dennis.
Okay.
Who plays for a band called Beartooth.
Okay.
He is such a good drummer. And such a good drummer in so many ways. It's like he's a very multifaceted drummer. So that would be my pick.
Yeah, like my favorite drummers, like they depend on the day, depend on what I've been listening to. But probably like one of my favorites that I've had that's for longevity is Dave Powell. He was a drummer in a band called Emery.
Mm-hmm.
Basically a band that I've been listening to for the past 12, 13 years. And every time they release something, the drums are phenomenal. So
nice.
I would say that he's my favorite.
Also Zach Farrow.
Yeah. Paramore's drums are also
the fact
great.
that he was like 16 and made drums better than any drum any part I've ever written annoys me. He's such a good drummer.
Right. You listen to the drums on the Brand New Eyes album by Paramore. It still holds up today. So.
Oh yeah.
Nice. I don't know what you guys who are basically experts at drums and music and everything think about this, but my favorite drummer is probably Josh Dunn from 21 Pilots.
Okay.
I don't know what you think
absolutely.
about him. Actually, it'd be interesting to hear what you have to think about him.
I have a kind of negative opinion.
Okay.
Personally.
I'll go and get mine out of the way. Like, he's a really flashy drummer, which you need. Like, you're as an entertainer, being a
And
musician.
there's only two people on stage.
There's only two people on stage,
That's
so
fair.
he's got to do his part.
Yeah.
He's also a really good entrepreneur in a way. He's a artist for SJC Custom Drums, which I'm also an artist for, and he collaborates with that company very well in marketing himself and also the brand. They actually just came out with a whole catalog of customizations you can make on a single drum.
Yeah.
You can mix and match. I forget what it's called. I should have known, but he does a really good job of both performing on stage and making drums cool. He's reminding me a lot of like how popular Travis Barker was when Blink was very young.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad you went first because it's helping. From like a technical standpoint, he's a bouncy drummer. Which always like just bothers me.
Yeah.
But I will say on everything that goes with him being like the second half of 21 Pilots, being on stage, all this stuff, he is everything that Fabian said is completely accurate. He's he markets himself really, really well. They market themselves phenomenally just as a band. And I think that they've gotten a lot better too. Like was the album called Trenches or just the song?
This album was called Trench. Their last one.
The one with Jumpsuit on it.
Yeah, Trench. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought that was actually really solid.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it has energy to it. He like kind of screams a little bit, the vocalist.
Yeah.
Which I really liked. I was like, okay, this got some energy to it. I always felt like they were a little melodramatic, so it wasn't really my thing. But there's a lot of energy in that album. I haven't what else they have, but
well, I mean, I do this all the time whenever we start talking about 21 Pilots, but I gotta recommend him, man. I mean, if you like the screamo stuff, his earlier stuff, like Vessel and Regional at Best, a lot more of that.
Okay.
So you should check it out if that's what you're into.
Yeah, I'll do that one right when we get off of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love them. I think they're very entertaining. As far as client work with LOWBAT goes, what kind of involvement do you two have with the client work? For like commercials and stuff.
For commercials and things like that, it's pretty much exclusively Ethan.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like on the podcast, I'm the one who reaches out to everybody. As like you and I are who's been talking. I guess we've been talking on the LOWBAT one, but it's been me.
Yeah, I figured.
And like, so I'm the one who handles all that stuff. And then for certain stuff, for like business inquiries, I can reach out, but for the like just video services, I think that's largely
Gotcha. So have you guys? So then, like in the production process of client work, and even maybe just production in general, this would include music videos. Have you two kind of found your passion, your place, or was it something you kind of knew coming into it? Oh, I want to work in marketing, or I want to work in, I don't know, I like to be a camera assistant, or maybe you're on camera yourself. What are the different involving with production, being musicians? How did you come into this world with an expectation or discovery?
It's a great question. And I actually have like a very specific experience with that, like answer. Ethan and I talked about that recently. That before the video that we just did with Noah Ford, I didn't have a place. I didn't have a job. And it was just kind of like, yeah, just like obviously like be there. I was a lot of the pre-production stuff. I basically was working as like a producer or where like we needed a choreographer and I reached out and like handled that, and we needed all this, a car and all this other stuff, and I figured that stuff out. But the day of the shoot, I didn't have a job. And so I was like, what are like the 3 things that you know you will need? And he listed 3 things off, and I chose basically to be the person who, which I don't know what this would be called, but I basically was calling all the cues. Like I was like, actors ready, music ready, camera rolling, like blah, blah, blah. And then whenever it would start, because it's a single shot for like the big scene in the middle, I was going and like making sure that like, so the like behind the scenes, I guess, Ethan is on a little cart that and somebody who is part of LOWBAT, Duncan, was pulling it and pushing it.
Is that how you did the road shot?
Yep.
Heck yeah, dude. I was wondering that.
It was a weird like MacGyver put together
Definitely
thing.
a DIY style track.
But like because of that, everybody had such specific things. It was like we need somebody who has eyes on, who knows like the cues for the song, knows when to slow down, speed up, push, pull, knows where the dancers need to be, so on and so forth. And I was like, I want to give that a shot. And after doing it, I was like, that was fun. I loved being that role.
Yeah.
So that was definitely like my realization of
Awesome.
what I like to do. What about you, Fabian?
When I started doing some of the things for LOWBAT, when it was just a video, we did shorts, so I was doing some acting as well. But as we started working with clients and things like that, kind of a lot of behind the scenes stuff I like to do. For the Noah Ford video, for a while, I was serving as a runner. I was getting stuff. I had to like grab some things that we forgot. I had to go to the store. Drive. I had a long drive. I got rear-ended on the way.
Oh God!
Oh, yeah, you did get rear-ended. I forgot about that. Yeah, that did happen.
So like, I'm the type of guy that I'm perfectly cool with auxiliary tasks.
Yeah.
If it needs to get done, like I know I can get it done, or I can get it done well.
Yes.
And sometimes it's things that most people don't want to do.
Okay.
I'm okay with it. So I know I'm like a team player in that aspect. So I definitely enjoyed that. And then Ethan also has he got another camera for just straight up behind the scenes footage that it's basically set up where you just point and shoot and it'll look cool. I don't know how he was able to set it up that way, but literally like a monkey could like press record and it's going to look good, which is, my video handling skills is the equivalent of a monkey. So it's very useful that he has that. And I'm excited to use that on future shoots.
Yeah, curious. Have you looked to see if it's a Sony or Canon or what kind is it?
It's a Sony. It's a Sony ZV-E10. It's what we're recording on right now.
Nice.
Yeah, we just got it in. We got the white one.
Okay.
And it just has a kit lens right now, but everything besides the camera that it replaced, which was the Lumix G7, everything else we have is Sony.
Very nice.
So it was like, let's just like get fully into the Sony ecosystem so all the lenses work and it simplifies it. We have like 13 batteries now. It's great.
It's a weird world because then you're like, if you don't commit to that early, then you start getting into like, DaVinci Resolve with Blackmagic software, and then even A10 Mini Pro. That's a Blackmagic thing. It works best with Blackmagic cameras. Or you get into Canon stuff, and they have tons of LUT packages and a very specific look and a workflow. And if you don't commit to that early, then you can accidentally have a huge makeshift of equipment that you're trying to make work together, and it's really more difficult to do.
Definitely.
I think Ethan has definitely, he's talked about that a lot.
He's kind of steered us all in the right direction too, and making sure that like he taught you how to do some using Premiere, right?
Yeah, I do the posts and stuff. And I mean, it's really simple, honestly. He basically set up a template.
Yeah.
I just have to export the video over into it, copy it over properly, and like that's really it. I do any like editing that I do for like really simple stuff. I use I'm forgetting what it's called, but it's on the iPad. It's nothing.
Premiere Rush?
No. Man.
Final Cut.
No.
It's that
we'll
simple.
get there eventually.
It's all right.
It was like $40, and it's not a computer thing. Like it's exclusively an iPad.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wanted something that I could cut simple videos together and like start to kind of learn.
Nice.
But I am learning Premiere.
That's dude, Premiere, I think I've been doing video production since I was like in 9th grade, earlier before that. So it's been well over a decade. And I've been using Premiere. I've been using a number of different ones, but Premiere, I have seen the evolution of Final Cut and Avid and Edius and Premiere, and Premiere is where it's at, man. Right now,
Yeah.
I don't think any of them have the motivation or the innovation or creativity, maybe even the finances to compete on the market it's at today. And I think Adobe in the next 10 years is going to completely obliterate every other software. And then after that, we'll see. But
yeah, we'll see. The entire suite is like,
It works so well together.
Yes.
yeah, they work well together. They all work like well. They all work well. Everything is at least above average. And like, if they can just tinker the things that need to catch up, like I can see it being like just everywhere.
absolutely.
And they have really good simple stuff too for like your phone. You could use like Spark Post.
Yes.
And I use that all the time. It's like it's just so intuitive, and it's like if you need something that looks good, but it's simple, they have it. And then if you need like the really finite details, they have that too. You just get the whole suite and you're good.
Yes. I mean, I think it's super sick.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah. Well, not yet. We'll see.
Sponsor.
Please.
But no, dude, I think it's a great investment to learn anything Adobe right now, because I think some of the biggest paying jobs probably in the creative marketing world in the next 10, 20 years, it's going to probably be centered around Adobe softwares. And so it's a crazy good investment to learn that stuff. To shift gears slightly, I was looking at the About section of LOWBAT on your guys' website, and you guys used a term that I was very intrigued by, and I wanted to hear you guys explain it. This is more vision, high sky view kind of things of your guys' company.
Mm.
You use the word evolve culture as a value on your About page on the website, and I'm curious, and maybe Ethan constructed this since he started the company, but I want to hear maybe even the vision he's passed to you. How do you define evolve culture? What is the meaning behind that? For LOWBAT's impact, I guess.
Definitely, I wasn't a part of that, but those are some powerful words, because it's kind of one of those things where we have so many different communities in our area, people that we can reach at any time, and us being able to bring them together on this platform, just kind of shows that we're all people trying to do our thing, trying to do our passions. Like our passion for LOWBAT is to create these video projects that people can be proud of. And I think that if we all work together, we can make sure that everyone is able to achieve their passions.
Sick.
The way that I interpret that, because that definitely was like an Ethan written thing. But interpreting that in the form of like the podcast as like our major role in it, I think it actually goes hand in hand with what we were saying earlier about wanting to offer the best platform as possible. So like you think about the culture with like really, really big A-list shows, and you don't see small name people on them. You only see once they get to that level, it's like, why would I waste my time with some random person down the street that like may have an interesting story, but like when I could have Justin Timberlake on tomorrow?
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? Like, and so it's like, if we can kind of break through that a little bit and be like, we can talk to these huge people, but also offer the same platform. And it goes for video and all this other stuff too. Like we see that a lot of like gatekeeping and a lot of like separation between the classes of people and celebrity, that if we have the opportunity to break through that, that's what I would want to do.
That's awesome. So you're really pushing the concept of like, man, like culture's built on this hierarchy of importance, and it's maybe even built on how many people know your name and how many people love your name, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are interested in breaking that down to where it's like, hey, we're all flesh and blood. There's a lot of cool people and a lot of cool stories and a lot of dreams out there. And you want to evolve culture to stop thinking about all of the status symbols and the numbers, and more be like, hey, let's hear real people. Let's focus on what matters.
I mean, like we definitely do. Like we see it. We understand. Like whenever we have somebody who has more of a following, like we definitely are aware of it. But some of the most interesting conversations we've had have been with people brand new to what they're doing, or that don't have a following yet. And it's like the people who are massive may not have as much insight as you think, or really have like they fell into it, or they're just like doing it for whatever like arbitrary reason. And then you talk to somebody who's just starting out and they have like real passion, and it's like those are the people that deserve this platform, if just the same, if not more than these larger names.
Does LOWBAT have an aspiration to move beyond Virginia Beach?
That's a good question. I think I mean, like we all have interest in living in other places. I know Ethan and I talk about it constantly. And all of us have the same goal of like, we're not particularly happy with our day jobs, and having something like this, or since we're both musicians, having like a band be able to take over something that's like a creative endeavor is the goal. And if that means moving somewhere else, if it makes sense, I wouldn't be opposed to it. But I can't speak for everybody. I'm not sure.
And then also the fact that we, as the platform grows, we have the ability to reach out to different people, and you know, maybe some just people with more followers and things like that. We've had an opportunity to have one remote podcast so far, hosted on the LOWBAT podcast, and it went really well. And you know, if we get a hold of someone with a large following that's not from here, we're not going to say no because you're not from here.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things where if it falls into our lap, let's just go with it and see what happens.
Yeah. What are you two, Casey, Fabian? What are your guys's? You're laying in bed at night, right? And you just recorded an episode or two that day, and you're like, heck yeah, dude, 5 years from now, my life's going to look like this, hopefully. You know what I mean? What are those aspirations?
I mean, I would love to make being a creative my career, whether it be with my band. Maybe that gets successful and it can, you know, that can be a focus. But the thing about being a creative, being a musician or anything like that is there's time for projects all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because there's going to be downtime. There's going to be scheduled things where you're going to have some gaps. So being able to work with LOWBAT is a really cool way to keep my creative juices going. And if I keep the pace up with both aspects of my life, like it'd be really cool to watch them all grow together.
I think about things usually not in like super broad, like this is how I want everything to be lined up, but more like if this is the way things are, then how I got there isn't as important, I guess.
Yes.
Like for example, I think about like something that would be really cool. I want to be able to like travel, but have a reason to. Like I want to like fly out to like somewhere to go to like a convention and like be like a speaker or have a booth or something, and like have there be a reason why I'm there. Or go fly out for like a show or festival or something and like have people give a shit, more or less. Like having that sort of like, I have reach and I'm doing something that people care to watch, listen, come talk to me, whatever it may be. That's really like as long as I'm making some sort of an impact that way by creating something. Cause like I have a decent job and I could work and retire eventually, like do the normal thing. But that's definitely not what I'm interested in. I spend all day thinking about like other stuff to work on. So that would be more or less my thing, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so myself, the other guys I do stuff with, you guys, we are all in the same boat. We are all working day jobs, and we are all hustling through the whole week and weekend to do other stuff. At this point, and you guys are a ways into the production company as much as we are. At this point, what would you say the greatest advice for someone who's considering stepping into a creative pursuit? What would that be? Because I was listening to a podcast today where it was a couple of comedians talking to each other, and they were saying like, yeah, we comedians sometimes have the opportunity to get wealthy based on telling jokes, and they, for some reason, they're cut from a different cloth. They just knew in their body that they can't sit at a normal job, or, you know, whatever that looks like. They can't take orders from some random person and ask to go to the bathroom, you know, that kind of stuff. They can't do it. And I have a feeling that's similar to what you guys and your team feel like, you know, in the same way that I feel like that almost every day. And so I'm curious, if someone's feeling that and they're like, man, I need something. I need to pursue something. I've got this fire in my belly. From your experience, what would you say to them?
I think the comedy thing was a really good example, actually, because all of those people started off just going to clubs and just trying it, and going out and just doing it again and again and again, and probably failing a bunch and what have you. I'm really glad that we waited and had the opportunity to make a podcast with decent equipment and like with a team and everything. But I think I would have gotten here regardless. And I probably would be better at it by this point if I had started sooner. And so I guess if you have something that you feel like you have something to say, something to provide or offer, if you can articulate that in your head as like, this is something that I see missing or something that I can add to the world.
Yes.
Don't hesitate to do everything you can to try it. No matter how much preparation you do and how much money you put into it, if you do it for 5 years straight, you're going to look back at that first year and be like, that was awful. I was so bad back then, because you're always going to improve. So just be open to that and just really go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely don't want to go into things and half-ass it if you think it's something you want to make it a major part of your life. You said you have the fire in your belly, but you got to keep that fire going. And the easiest way to do that, in my opinion, is just to soak in as much information as you can. You know, the internet's a great thing. And if you can, you know, filter past the bad information, you can learn a lot to be able to prepare and make sure that you're on the right track. And then you can go ahead and dive in and just try your best, and don't be afraid to fail, because you're probably going to fail at first.
Yeah.
You know, so far, like, I feel like a lot of what we've done and with the LOWBAT podcast has gone mostly without a hitch, but that's because we failed so many different times in the past with other projects that, you know, we go in with that knowledge and experience, and we think that we can make a really good product, and so far I think we have.
Yeah, definitely.
It's definitely improved too, like from the first episode to what's coming out. Like the lights have changed and like we got a new table.
Yeah.
It's like simple stuff like that, but also like me as like I guess who organizes the most of it. And I like more or less often I guess kind of run as like the main host or whatever. Like I would have questions and stuff on an iPad. And that didn't work for me. I actually I ended up stopping doing that because that it made it feel very robotic. And I had a lot of people point out that they saw the difference in with and without the questions.
Yeah.
For some people it works so well, but for me it just I would like zoom in on the iPad and then I'd be like reading the question, not actually listening, and I don't know, I was getting my head about it. So it's always a learning process.
Dude, that exact thing I've struggled with since talking to guests. Honestly, I think I've probably talked to maybe roughly around the same amount of guests as you guys have. Probably around between 20 and 30 guests. And it's a weird balance, and you almost have to figure out, am I better at talking naturally? Or do I need an outline? Do I need very specific questions? Like what do I need personally?
It's difficult.
You can't figure that out until you do a solid 20 episodes.
Right. And it also depends on your guests too and how engaging they are. I know the guest that we had the most preparation for, it almost felt like an interview because we just went through the questions and he answered them, and then went to the next question, he answered it. You know, that's kind of not the format that we normally go with. I also think it's very important that with our podcast, we have crew episodes usually every third episode where we just talk with other people in the LOWBAT crew, unhinged. We just sit down with and turn it on and start talking.
Oh yeah.
And that it just kind of that feel is something we kind of want to keep in all that theme in all the other episodes. So it's nice to be able to like, you know, we schedule out, you know, our guests, and we have, say like we record 4 weeks in a row with guests. But then on that 5th week we have a crew episode and it's just laid back.
Nice.
So it kind of brings us back down to like
resets everything.
It resets everything really. You know, we just kind of sit down and chat and be like, well, this is what the rest of these podcasts are supposed to feel like.
Yeah. And
my favorite ones have always been the ones that are like we'll have a band on. Like I'll specifically shout out the band Ring Out.
Okay.
Because we had them on, and I think the first 30 to 40 minutes we talked about food.
Yeah.
Like sure, that does that offer the best product as far as like promotion for the band? Maybe not, but also maybe it does, because I'm not like you can go and do 10 interviews where you answer the same. When did you record this album? What's your favorite song on the record? Like all those basic questions. Or are you gonna click on the video where it's like Cam gets thrown a cheeseburger and eats it on camera?
Yeah.
You're probably gonna be like, what? I'm gonna click on that.
Yeah.
I love those ones.
Yeah. You mentioned that a lot of people you mentioned a few people have been recognizing you, Fabian, and maybe you, Casey, out and about from the podcast. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So Casey especially, like me, it's more like someone will see me in passing, like, oh yeah, listen to the episode. Casey, on the other hand, has some cool stories.
It does happen more often than I would have thought. Like a couple weeks ago, I went down to the ocean front and was just walking on the boardwalk, and somebody walked past and was like, hey, LOWBAT podcast. And I was like, oh, cool. Whoa. Like, and I it got in my head a little bit, because I was like, if he knew who I was, he would have like said, hey, Casey, or something. But that seemingly was somebody that only knows me from the podcast.
Yes.
I was like, that's really cool. And that I've even like with the band, we'd have experiences playing shows in front of like 3 people or whatever. It just happens. Or you could play in front of 100 people, but everybody's standing there with their arms crossed, not caring.
Yeah.
And then, but for me, I get one person like singing along or like moshing or just getting involved, and immediately I'm like, I'm not nervous. I feel rejuvenated on like why I'm doing this. And it's the same thing with that. Having a single person say anything to me, I'm like, all right, like I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing then.
Yeah. You guys are getting recognized around the area now. It makes you stand a little taller.
Yeah, definitely.
Feel like I'm doing
Makes my
something
head
real
nice and big.
important.
Oh, yeah, Casey's head is huge right now. No, it's cool because like when we started this last winter, like it was just like fun, you know, see what happens. It's still fun, of course, but like it's cool just to see it's kind of spreading on its own.
Mhm.
We're doing almost the same thing every week, and it's growing. So
It's
nice to
getting
see.
easier too to get people on. Like people reach out to us now, or like either individually or as like a company, asking to be on, or like guests that we've had on have told other people,
referred their friends and
like,
things like that.
Wow.
and it's just kind of like spreading naturally, and it's really like humbling, makes the job a lot easier too. But it's like, it's just exciting. It's cool.
Yeah. Do you guys have you talked about the nature in which you guys are growing this company? LOWBAT does music videos as a service and a collaboration, cool creative project. You also do client work, but now you're doing a podcast, and I'm sure you guys have thoughts of other stuff that you haven't branched out into yet that you're probably planning on it. What does it make you think about? Well, your boy Ethan, he's creating a personality network under the name LOWBAT, and you guys are involved with that. How does that make you feel?
Excited.
Yeah, very excited. Definitely, like, we're accomplishing all that we want to accomplish so far, with as far as providing a service with the video. We're providing a platform to speak about yourself with the podcast. Like, things are just going super well, and I couldn't be more proud of what we got going on.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Just excited overall. And like it's really cool to constantly like have like me just be thinking about stuff. And I live with Ethan, so having him come home and like we talk about it almost every day. Other stuff we could be working on, and like we just planning out all sorts of stuff, throwing ideas out there, and it's exciting to have that like mutual I'm gonna use the word again, excitement about all of it.
Yeah, it's like part of the conversations that like are related to LOWBAT are partially like preparing for upcoming things and partial like daydreaming.
Yeah,
because we'll just be like, wouldn't it be cool if, and then like I'm pretty sure on all of our dockets, like the next like big thing that could happen for LOWBAT is to acquire a studio space, because again, this is all being done in a dining room. And then the
breaking down the fourth wall.
No, I mean, like,
got to do it sometime.
and then
it's real.
exactly. And then the video production is oftentimes done out in nature or out in public spaces, which that can run into some issues, as we had in the Noah Ford video. But like that'd be such a game-changing thing for us, and if we can work hard to acquire a cool space that we can provide our service to the best of our ability, that'd be a really cool thing that we right now is just a daydream, but we're definitely working towards it.
Yeah. What would you guys say? And we'll wrap up soon because I know you guys are busy. But I wanted to ask you, what would you say might be in the pursuit of your ambitions and dreams? You're investing time in hopes that investment returns you something. What might be your fears along this journey? Because most likely, if you guys who are entrepreneurial and are, collaboratively building this thing, you're going to have fears along the way, personally. And most likely, people that are also entrepreneurial are going to have similar fears. Curious, what are some personal fears that you are comfortable talking about? And maybe some self-motivation that you've kind of worked through to overcome those fears naturally.
That's a good question.
Yeah, for me, I've been dealing with ever since I had the idea, was I don't think I'm good enough, right? Either skills in production, personality, ability to market myself. There's too many things to be good at all of them.
Yeah.
And you just don't think I'm good enough. And so then you think, well, a big fear for me was if it doesn't work, I have nothing to fall into. Nothing that I'm as passionate about to fall into. But then I just think I've countered that with the idea of success is not based on a dollar amount. It can be helpful, can free up your time to get you to do that more and give you some sort of self-sovereignty over your life. But success is based on how much experience and fun you had along the journey, how much stuff you learned, how many cool people you got to talk to. For you guys, I'd live in Virginia Beach for years and never speak to you, but because of this podcast, I can. And so those kind of thoughts. So what are some from you guys that you have?
It's a tough question.
It is. But I mean, like, as with anything, like, you know, I know everyone in this group we're really busy people. Everything that we do with LOWBAT is like squeezed in between other things. So it's like a lot of time invested in things like that. So the biggest fear is like, you know, looking back, and if things don't go well, or look back like, man, I could have used that time to do something else.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's always something that's in the back of your head, but it's also used as motivation.
Yes.
I won't have to look back and think like that if everything goes as planned.
Yeah. And
everything turns out to be successful. So doing your best to make sure that everything goes well, and pushing yourself even harder. Fear sometimes is a really good motivator. And I think it definitely is in this aspect.
Yeah, that's cool, because you got to invest in something, and you're moving forward even if it crashes and burns. You moved forward, you know? You're pursuing
Definitely.
something which is a noble goal.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Casey?
I don't know if I have any fears per se about any of it. I very much, my goal, the reason why I feel that I am like so driven to be creative and I obsess over this stuff is the fact that I want to leave something behind, like a legacy, something that like that lives beyond me, and whether that be music or be things that I make with LOWBAT. And I don't really think about fears, and actually thinking about this question made me think more about the idea that like I started off doing a band. That was my first like real creative endeavor. And then I did things surrounding music that didn't work out, but it all led me to LOWBAT. And then who knows what might happen in the future as well. So like for me, I guess anytime that I feel the fear, it's like of it not working out, I imagine I'm going to find myself somewhere else eventually. And it's, I don't have a fully like formulated thought, so I'm talking through it. So I'm going to ramble a little bit, but I'm trying to figure it out. Like just, I just know that I want to have the creative freedom to make cool shit. Yeah. And for people to be like, that was cool. Yeah. That's it. And in the most simplest form I can imagine. I just want to be able to have people be like, hey, that thing you made, pretty cool.
Yeah, you're an entertainer, dog.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I don't feel, but it's so weird because I also am like, I feel like conversation wise, I'm an introvert. Yeah. At least like mentally. Like the idea of sitting down and talking to somebody that I don't know for my entire life has always been like the biggest, like something I would never want to do. What up, Ethan? Something I would never, ever want to do in a million years. And then the podcast started forming, and it's like, I'm now training myself. Yes. I'm forcing myself to sit down with people. And instead of hearing them talk and being like, how do I get out of this conversation? How do I get away? Yeah. Because that's where my brain would go. I'd be like, how do I get out of this? Escape. I have to like continue the conversation. It's been super healthy and interesting. Therapeutic. To figure that out. Yeah. Heck yeah.
Right. Just looking back, like on a few episodes, like our very first official episode was with someone that neither Casey or I had ever met.
That was so stressful.
Ever.
Oh my God.
It was a client of Ethan's for a music video, and we had like barely touched base with them. And once we got through that episode, and I want to say we got through it because, you know, it was a little difficult, but once we got through it, me and Casey looked at each other and was like, we can do this. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We just sat with two complete strangers for an hour and a half and made it comfortable. Talked. Yeah.
Like, and it was really cool to like, it's so rewarding having the moment where you realize the ice has been broken, because they were nervous too. Yes. You know, they were there and like, not, you know, it was weird. Yeah. As like anybody would have their guard up. And there was a moment where like all four of us laughed at something, and then instead of it being interviewee, it was a conversation. Yes. And everybody was like, it just opened up. We
Yeah.
just broke the ice right there. It was so cool.
That's awesome. That's a crazy feeling, dude. Honestly, it's something to look forward to almost when you're talking to a stranger.
Definitely.
How do I get through to these people?
Yeah. How do you start giggling together?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to take too much more of you guys' time, but we talk a lot about films on our podcast. What's your favorite movies and why?
You go first, because I'm not.
It's so funny because
Neither of us
like
really watch
we've
movies.
had plenty of conversations on the podcast, especially on our crew episodes, because a lot of the other crew, they love movies and things like that. Me and Casey are just not movie people.
All right, what about
You know?
shows?
Shows, I can name a couple.
Right. I mean, I can name
stick
a
out.
few as well. You can go first, Casey, while I formulate.
So the best show that has ever been made, no question, was Avatar: The Last Airbender.
See,
Nothing has ever been better.
so many people say that, and I've tried on 5 different occasions to get into it.
What do you mean you've tried? Like, how have you tried?
I've
What do you
got
do?
like 10 episodes in, and I'm like, nope.
You have to keep. You have to keep pushing.
It's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn,
Yeah.
but it pays off better than any show I've ever seen. The ending and the ending of each consecutive season and how it all, like the character development, everything, it's so good. But
Okay.
Alternatively, I guess on a different note, I mean, I'm a big Game of Thrones fan.
heck yes.
I love the Sopranos.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many shows that I have really enjoyed, but Avatar is definitely one that just like it just sits with me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good storytelling,
Nice.
I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Great.
phenomenal storytelling.
I would say that like I do enjoy Avatar, and the fact that it's the character development that he mentioned is top notch, especially once you realize that it did start so slow, but everything escalates so quickly. And you at the end of the series, you look back, you're like, well, at the beginning, I never would have imagined this. So that was always pretty cool. But I guess again, I don't spend much time on TV with movies or something like that, but like during the pandemic, I'd had opportunity to watch a little bit more because there was not shit to do.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of recency bias, but I definitely liked the series Umbrella Academy.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I started that.
Yes, definitely one of those things is very captivating. Especially knowing the background a little bit of the writer of the book being the singer of My Chemical Romance,
Okay.
a band that both me and Casey had grown up on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
arguably an unhealthy obsession at times.
for you at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like really cool that's still in production. Like they're about to release season 3, which is pretty cool. And then on a slightly different note, I've really been enjoying the series Dave, Little Dickie's show.
Yes.
It's
Hilarious,
so annoyingly good.
It's so annoying because like
dude.
it's
Season
one of those
1,
things.
he had a straight pooping scene. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
believe
crazy.
how good it is. I feel like everybody feels the same way about that as every time I tell somebody to go get Denny's. They always are like, it's gonna be lame, like it's not gonna be very good, and then you experience it and you're like,
Wow.
this is actually really good.
Yeah. And it touches your heart on that scene in the
It's so real.
Yeah, and like in season 1 there's the scene where they're having a little nice moment playing music together, him and his girl, right? And she comes and starts talking in the microphone with him, and then that little rift speaks to the soul in a way that's so simple and yet powerful when they bring it back later on after they break up and stuff. Dude, it's wild. So good.
Oh yeah. The show is
Definitely. It's
really,
kind
really
of
good.
crazy to think that guy, Lil Dicky, whose entire career is based on the fact that he raps about having a small pee-pee, can create such a moving series, and it's still going very strong. So
Yes,
excited to see what goes on with that.
Well, fellas, I am very thankful that you guys talked to me today. It was a great conversation. And
I gotta know about your what about you?
what about me?
Yeah.
Favorite movie?
Oh, probably Godfather series.
Never saw him.
See, that's the thing. Some people just haven't. And that's why I avoided the question, because
There's a lot of commitment
Fair
to get
enough.
into the Godfather
Yeah.
series.
a
So
lot of people,
They're all long.
they are all long. And a lot of people didn't like the third one. I happen to think it was brilliant because it wrapped up the story of Michael Corleone in his old age in a way that only made sense. And karma came back and bit him. So it was a good climax to the whole story.
When did those movies come out?
70s. I don't think 60s, maybe 60s and 70s, and I think 80s. So I think they moved into the 80s.
That is beyond the point of I struggle with movies that are older than like the 90s. I feel like the quality of movie jumped up so much that like movies from back then I can't.
Yeah, it's hard to jump into it if you're not very committed to the idea of watching it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Of course, I enjoyed it. Definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you.
See you, man.
Later, man.
If you guys would like to learn more about LOWBAT and the podcast, visit lowbat.tv. That's LOWBAT.tv.